Hi everybody, I hope that you're all doing really well. So today I am back to talk about my anticipated releases, books that are going to be published between April and June of 2022 that I am particularly excited for. I've had a very good time compiling my little list of these books this time round, so without much further ado, let's just get into the books, shall we? I'm going to be doing this in chronological order, and so the first book that I have to talk about to you today, coming out on the 7th of April, is The Empress and the English Doctor: How Catherine the Great Defied a Deadly Virus. And I think since vaccines have been such a hot button topic recently, this will appeal to quite a lot of people. Within living memory, smallpox was a dreaded disease. Over human history, it has killed untold millions. Back in the 18th century, as epidemics swept Europe, the first rumours emerged of an effective treatment, a mysterious method called inoculation. But a key problem remained: convincing people to accept the preventative remedy, the forerunner of vaccination. Arguments raged over risks and benefits, and public resistance ran high. As smallpox ravaged her empire and threatened her court, Catherine the Great took the momentous decision to summon the Quaker physician Thomas Dimmesdale to St. Petersburg to carry out a secret mission that would transform both of their lives. Lucy Ward expertly unveils the extraordinary story of Enlightenment ideals, female leadership, and the fight to promote science over suspicion. I also get the feeling that Brittany over at Literally Smitten, my co-host for the History-a-thon, is going to be particularly intrigued by this book. Next up, taking a slightly different tact, we have The No-Show by Beth O'Leary, coming out on the 12th of April. Beth O'Leary tends to write romantic comedies, and I have previously enjoyed her other books, so I'm quite looking forward to seeing what people think about this one. 3 women, 3 dates, 1 missing man. 8:52 a.m. Siobhan is looking forward to her breakfast date with Joseph. She was surprised when he suggested it. She normally sees him late at night in her hotel room. Breakfast on Valentine's Day surely means something. So where is he? 2:43 p.m. Miranda's hoping that a Valentine's Day lunch with Carter will be the perfect way to celebrate her new job. It's a fresh start and a sign that her life is falling into place. She's been dating Carter for 5 months now and things are getting serious. But why hasn't he shown up? 6:30 p.m. Joseph Carter agreed to be Jane's fake boyfriend at an engagement party. They've not known each other long, but their friendship is fast becoming the brightest part of her new life in Winchester. Joseph promised to save Jane tonight, but he's not there. Meet Joseph Carter, that is, if you can find him. The No-Show is the brilliantly funny, heartbreaking and joyful new novel from Beth O'Leary about dating and waiting and the ways love can find us. Then next, coming out on the 14th of April, another romantic comedy author is going to be coming, and that is Mad About You by Mhairi McFarlane. This is a book that I know that my mum's going to be anticipating because she has read all of Mhairi McFarlane's books. 2 strangers, one big coincidence, driving each other crazy is just the beginning. Harriet Hatley is running away from everything. Getting married, her boyfriend's family, her past. A dream house share seems like the perfect place to hide, but her unlikely housemate Cal is no stranger to running away himself, and he's also hiding secrets of his own. Can these two take a crazy risk, face the past, and finally find a reason to stay? Next up, coming out on the 15th of April, something that is definitely up my street, is Harry of England, the history of 8 kings from Henry I to Henry VIII. This is basically a history book that goes through all of the different Henrys. 8 kings of England were named Henry, but only 2 of them were born as heirs to the throne, and these, the 3rd and 6th, proved to be the weakest. 2 seized the crown by force of arms, 1 by craft and opportunistic speed, and 1 by skillful diplomacy and an early flowering of that great British virtue, compromise. Among their numbers are saints and monsters, the best known and the least known of English kings. 1 was a storybook hero leading an army to triumph against overwhelming odds. Another sat out a battle, singing to himself and playing with his fingers while the arrows flew. Half of them have been accused of murder, though in general the actual killings were carried out by others. When we look at the contributions made by the 8 kings of that name, we find they underpin almost every aspect of our nation and its institutions. To the first 2 we owe our legal system and Department of Finance. To the 3rd, unintentionally or otherwise, the origins of Parliament. The 5th decreed widespread use of English in official documents, leading to dramatic developments in that language. The 7th transformed the tax system and introduced legal reforms that curbed the power of the nobility. The 8th, again, arguably unintentionally, brought into being the Church of England. Between them, these English monarchs represent every possible shade of kingship, and each in his own time was Harry of England. I do find it sad that in that blurb with all of the different things that each of the kings did, Henry IV has not been singled out for anything. Poor Henry IV. Everyone forgets about him. The next book, coming out on the 28th of April, is, I don't know if this is one that I am anticipating in a wholly positive way, because I actually didn't like this author's previous book, even though it was a book that I absolutely should have enjoyed. But I'm popping it on the list entirely because I know that the cover is going to be my most anticipated cover. And so therefore I hold out hope. And that book is Elektra by Jennifer Saint. Like I say, her previous book, Ariadne, had been my most anticipated book, and it ended up being my biggest disappointment of 2021, unfortunately. But those covers, man! Foiling gets me every time. The House of Atreus is cursed, a bloodline tainted by a generational cycle of violence and vengeance. This is the story of 3 women, their fates inextricably tied to this curse, and the fickle nature of men and gods. Clytemnestra, the sister of Helen, wife of Agamemnon, her hopes of averting the curse are dashed when her sister is taken to Troy by the feckless Paris. Her husband raises a great army against them and determines to win, whatever the cost. Cassandra, princess of Troy and cursed by Apollo to see the future, but never to be believed when she speaks of it. She is powerless in her knowledge that the city will fall. Elektra, the youngest daughter of Clytemnestra and Agamemnon. Elektra is horrified by the bloodletting of her kin, but can she escape the curse? Or is her own destiny also bound by violence? Hopping back onto non-fiction history, we have Portable Magic, A History of Books and Their Readers by Emma Smith. Most of what we say about books is really the words inside them, the rosy nostalgic glow for childhood reading, the lifetime companion of a much-loved novel. But books are things as well as words, objects in our lives as well as worlds in our heads. And just as we crack their spines, loosen their leaves and write in their margins, so they disrupt and disorder us in turn. All books are, as Stephen King put it, a uniquely portable magic. Here, Emma Smith shows us why. Portable Magic unfolds an exciting and iconoclastic new story of the book in human hands, exploring when, why and how it acquired its particular hold over us. Gathering together a millennium's worth of pivotal encounters with volumes big and small, Smith reveals that, as much as their content, it is books' physical form, their bookhood, that lends them their distinctive and sometimes dangerous magic. From the Diamond Sutra to Jilly Cooper's Riders, to a book made of wrapped slices of cheese, this composite artisanal object has for centuries embodied and extended relationships between readers, nations, ideologies and cultures in significant and unpredictable ways. Exploring the unexpected and unseen consequences of our love affair of books, Portable Magic hails the rise of the mass market paperback and dismantles the myth that print began with Gutenberg. It reveals how our reading habits have been shaped by American soldiers and proposes new definitions of a classic, and even of the book itself. Ultimately, it illuminates the ways in which our relationship with the written word is more reciprocal and more turbulent than we tend to imagine. A book that is both history and about our love of books, that is right up my street. Then coming out on the 12th of May, we have a fiction book about book lovers, Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This is an author that I've been meaning to check out for a while. I know that her book You, Me on Vacation as well as Beach Read are quite popular, but as of yet I've still not read anything by her, but I am hoping to make a change to that this year. One summer, 2 rivals, a plot twist they didn't see coming. Nora is a cutthroat literary agent at the top of her game. Her whole life is books. Charlie is an editor with a gift of creating bestsellers, and he's Nora's work nemesis. Nora has been through enough breakups to know she's the woman men date before they find their happily ever after. That's why Nora's sister has persuaded her to swap her desk in the city for a month's holiday in Sunshine Falls, North Carolina. It's a small town, straight out of a romance novel, but instead of meeting sexy lumberjacks, handsome doctors or cute bartenders, Nora keeps bumping into Charlie. She's no heroine, he's no hero. So can they take a page out of an entirely different book? Great, love it, sold. I get the sense that Emily Henry really likes this rivals to lovers narrative. That seems to be what Beach Read was, as well as You and Me on Vacation. Though I think that one was former friends who had an argument, so are kind of rivals now, and then to lovers. She clearly likes this theme. Then next up, also coming out on the 12th of May, is a sequel that I've been very much anticipating, which is The House with the Golden Door, which is the second book in the Wolf Den trilogy by Elodie Harper. I very much enjoyed the previous book, The Wolf Den. It's set in Pompeii in the years before the eruption of Vesuvius. The main character is Amara, who in the first book we meet as a slave in a brothel, and it's her fight for freedom, as well as the story about her relationships with the other women in the brothel. I don't want to read out the blurb for The House with the Golden Door because it does give some spoilers for the first book, but yes, I will be eagerly anticipating this one to see what happens next. Another historical fiction book coming out on the 12th of May is Elizabeth of York, The Last White Rose, which is the first book in the Tudor Rose series by Alison Weir. I've previously read a few non-fiction pieces by Alison Weir and just the one fiction, which I actually read this year. That was The Marriage Game, which was all about Elizabeth I. So instead we are looking at Elizabeth I's namesake, Elizabeth of York, who was the mother of Henry VIII. An English princess born into a war between 2 families. Eldest daughter of the royal house of York, Elizabeth dreams of a crown to call her own. But when her beloved father King Edward dies suddenly, her destiny is rewritten. Her family's enemies close in. 2 young princes are murdered in the tower. Then her uncle seizes power and vows to make Elizabeth his queen. But another claimant seeks the throne, the upstart son of the rival House of Lancaster. Marriage to this Henry Tudor would unite the White Rose of York and the Red of Lancaster and change everything. A great new age awaits. Now Elizabeth must choose her allies and her husband wisely and fight for her right to rule. I'm very interested to see where Alison Weir goes with this, because I know from reading her non-fiction book on Elizabeth of York that she very much goes down the side of Elizabeth had wanted to marry Richard III, that there definitely was a relationship going on there, which I don't know how I feel about that. Not really good about it, to be honest. It was her uncle. I can just about wrap my head around the idea of cousins being acceptable in the past, but uncle and niece? No. But you never know, maybe she takes a different tact with her fiction than she does her non-fiction. Yet another historical fiction book coming out on the 12th of May is A Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting by Sophie Irwin. However, this time we are jumping ahead from the Tudors over to the Regency. The season is about to begin, and there's not a moment to lose. Kitty Talbot needs a fortune, or rather, she needs a husband who has a fortune. This is 1818 after all, and only men have the privilege of seeking their own riches. With just 12 weeks until Kitty and her sisters are made homeless, launching herself into London society is the only avenue open to her, and Kitty must use every ounce of cunning and ingenuity she possesses to climb the ranks. The only one to see through her plans is the worldly Lord Radcliffe, and he is determined to thwart her at any cost. I wonder what ends up happening with Kitty and Lord Radcliffe. Can Kitty secure a fortune and save her sisters from poverty? There is not a day to lose, and no one, not even a lord, will stand in her way. What's gonna happen? I've been listening to a lot of this romance book podcast called Heaving Bosoms, and it really shows what I'm gravitating towards right now. Then the last 12th of May book I will be mentioning today is non-fiction, and it is Fix the System, Not the Women, and Other Lies That Shape Women's Lives by Laura Bates. I've previously read Everyday Sexism and Misogynation by Laura Bates. She actually founded the Everyday Sexism Twitter account, so she is a very big name in this space. Too often we blame women for walking home alone at night, for not asking or asking forcefully enough for a seat at the table, for not overcoming the odds that are stacked against them. In this explosive book, feminist writer and activist Laura Bates lays bare the patterns of misogyny that harm and endanger us all. She exposes the systematic prejudice at the heart of 5 key institutions in our society: education, politics, media, policing, criminal justice. Combining stories with shocking evidence, Fix the System, Not the Women is a blazing examination of sexual injustice and a rallying cry for reform. Then jumping right ahead to the 23rd of June, we've got a book that a lot of people are going to be looking forward to. This is a book that comes from quite a booktube favourite author, and honestly I wouldn't really be anticipating this author's book if not for the plot, and that book is Lapfunner by Ottessa Moshfegh, and this is, I believe, her first historical fiction, and it's actually set in the medieval period. Like, weird. Very weird for her. She's known for writing very angsty, contemporary books, so I'm very intrigued by this turn at historical fiction writing. In a village of medieval fiefdom, buffeted by natural disasters, a motherless shepherd boy finds himself the unlikely pivot in a power struggle that puts all manner of faith to a savage test. In a spellbinding novel that represents Ottessa Moshfegh's most exciting leap yet. Little Marek, the abused and delusional son of the village shepherd, never knew his mother. His father told him she died in childbirth. One of life's few consolations for Marek is his enduring bond with the blind village midwife, Ina, who suckled him when he was a baby, as she did for many of the village's children. Ina's gifts extend beyond childcare. She possesses a unique ability to communicate with the natural world. Please tell me this is not a witchy wise woman again. Her gift often brings her the transmission of sacred knowledge on levels far beyond those available to other villagers, however religious they might be. For some people, Ina's home in the woods outside the village is a place to fear and to avoid, a godless place. As she is, isn't she? Among their number is Father Barnabas, the town priest and lackey for the deprived Lord and Governor William, whose hilltop manor contains a secret embarrassment of riches. The people's desperate need to believe that there are powers that be who have their best interests at heart is put to a cruel test by William and the priest, especially in this year of record drought and famine. But when fate brings Marek into violent proximity to the Lord's family, new and occult forces upset the old order. By year's end, the veil between blindness and sight, life and death, and the natural world and the spirit world will prove to be very thin indeed. And then finally, coming out on the 30th of June, we have Blood, Fire and Gold, the story of Elizabeth I and Catherine de' Medici by Estelle Paranque. In 16th century Europe, 2 women came to hold all the power against all the odds. They were Elizabeth I and Catherine de' Medici, one a virgin queen who ruled her kingdom alone, the other a clandestine leader who used her children to shape the destinies of Europe. Much has been written about these iconic women, but nothing has been said of their complicated relationship, 30 years of friendship, competition and conflict that changed the face of Europe. This is a story of two remarkable visionaries, a story of blood, fire and gold. It is also a tale of ceaseless calculation, of love and rivalry, of war and wisdom, and of female power in a male world. Shining new light on the legendary kingdoms Blood, Fire and Gold provides a new way of looking at two of history's most powerful women and how they shaped each other as profoundly as they shaped the course of history. Drawing on their letters and brand new research, Estelle Paranque writes an entirely new chapter in the well-worn story of the 16th century. As we know, I'm a big fan of Queen's history, so yeah, it's very much up my street, and I'm hoping that I hear good things. So there we go, there's a little selection of books coming out between April and June that I'm very much looking forward to, or at the very least looking forward to see what other people have to say about them. I most likely will not get to many of them as soon as they are published, but I'm very much interested in hearing the conversation that surrounds these books. Do let me know if you've been looking forward to any of the books that I've spoken about. Alternatively, do let me know about any that you know that I haven't included. I'd love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks.